Yo, what is up YouTube? James Baek here and welcome to another round of the Champions Cup. We got round, I believe this is round 6 versus Roxas. And yeah, we're going to get started and get into this match analysis. Of course, if you do enjoy these videos, be sure to leave a like down below and leave a comment down below. It really helps me out during these times. But yeah, it helps other people find these videos too. So if you want to share this video out, you can do it manually, or you could by hitting that like button and leave a comment down below. Now, as you can tell by the thumbnail, we got a pretty salty opponent, and you're going to see what happens here. We have my team of Dusclops, Dragapult, Sableye, Arcanine, Milotic, Ferrothorn, as always, and we got my opponent with the Dusclops, Lapras, Togekiss, Roserade, Conkeldurr, and Cinder. A pretty popular team that's been running around. I think specifically in Italy, I think they do run this. I think they ran this quite a bit for tournaments, but yeah, it's a pretty common team that I see, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be annoying. My standard lead against this usually is like Dusclops, Milotic, and Arcanine, Ferrothorn in the back. I don't go to Dragapult, Sableye because of the Togekiss, the Lapras, and the Dusclops, which could be annoying. So I feel like they don't always lead the Roserade immediately. I feel like that they just lead Dusclops, Togekiss usually immediately, and that's basically what I'm expecting here. I'm expecting either Togekiss plus the Dusclops, or even maybe a Lapras plus Dusclops lead, but I'm expecting one of those to lead to here. And yeah, this is a pretty scary team. There's a lot of threats that I have. This is actually probably not exactly in my favor. This is probably more negative, but yeah, I do think that these four were my best options. It's what I pretty much would have went if I had the Hirofumi team anyway. So yeah, I just decided let's go with it and we'll see how this goes, because Roserade is an annoying Pokemon. I don't have much that outspeeds it at all. Like Arcanine does speed tie with it, and it basically gets a sleep powder, which is annoying. This matchup is very tough, but I feel like I can handle this if I get Trick 'em up properly and wear down my opponent's team. So we got the Togekiss Dusclops lead, which I was not surprised about. It's a pretty good lead against like the double ghost or triple ghost method. We get to find out its scope lens and the Violet my opponent, as my opponent does get to find out my items here, and I'm like, okay, basically I'm not sure what you're really going to do here. I feel like you just go for attacks here. I could see Trick Room coming out here from my opponent, but I felt like it wasn't even worth it for my opponent. So I'm like, I might as well just get damage right here, because I get recovery with my Pain Split and recover options. Unless this Togekiss has Morning Sun. I don't think Togekiss gets Roost, but don't quote me on that. I feel like it might. I feel like it should, right? But they don't run it usually in VGC. So I just go for Ice Beam here, get some chip. My opponent went for Dazzling Gleam, got some decent damage. Luckily, no crit. Immediately, Nightshade into Dusclops to weaken it, as my opponent also goes for Nightshade to weaken my Milotic. So I'm like, okay, I'm not really like necessary need Trick Room immediately in this game, because I do have that Arcanine, which can function out of Trick Room, and Ferrothorn can probably just take hits in general. So I'm like, okay, I might as well just Nightshade, and I don't want to lose my Milotic if my opponent gets a critical hit right here. So I'm just going to go for Recover. It's a very safe play. My opponent goes for Dazzling Gleam, and voila, it does get the crit. So if I don't recover here, the Nightshade would have KO'd me. But since I did go for Recover, I'm able to survive a potential Nightshade that comes out from the Dusclops. And yeah, just Recover, I think, just carried it overall, because of the fact that it was just such a safe play for me. I think I went for Nightshade here to weaken the Kiss, and my opponent actually did stop Trick Room. So this is actually an amazing spot for me, because the Togekiss is in range of Nightshade now, and I could click Recover again with my Milotic, because I want to keep my Milotic as healthy as possible. That's basically how I beat this team. I stall out the Dynamax, I stall out the Veil, and from the Lapras, and I'm basically going to be able to stall it out pretty effectively here, I think, with just keeping my HP healthy so my Milotic can keep coming in. And yeah, I'm just gonna go for Nightshade, because Togekiss either takes 50 HP, goes down, or whatever, switching in takes 50 HP. And my opponent does switch out to Togekiss, goes out into Lapras, which is completely fine here. I do not mind that at all, as my opponent goes for Nightshade once again into my Milotic to try and weaken it. And I am going to be able to get a little bit of HP into this Lapras. Now, Nightshade didn't do as much as I anticipated, so that's definitely a really HP invested Lapras. So yeah, we are going to be able to get the Recover off. My Milotic nearly at full, which I really love about Recover here. It allows me to make those plays. And now I'm like, okay, I think I could just go for I think I just go for damage in the Clops here, and I think I'm gonna go out into, actually no, I go for Pain Split. Actually, yeah, I go for Pain Split here because I want a bit of recovery in case my opponent goes for the Nightshade into my own Dusclops, so I don't want to lose my Dusclops to like a double up with Pain Split plus I mean not Pain Split, Nightshade plus Veil Up. And I'm gonna go Ferrothorn because I don't want my opponent to double up my Logue Slot either with like Nightshade plus Freeze Dry. I don't want my opponent to take a KO here specifically, so I'm like, this is the best play. It gets me pressure with my Ferrothorn, and I'll be able to do a ton of work here. So I do switch on my low deck into Ferrothorn. It takes a Freeze Dry pretty well because I'm Assault Vest. The Nightshade would hurt a bit, but it's not like the end of the world. My opponent is going to Dynamax the Lapras, and I'm assuming it's going to be that Veil being set up from my opponent because, you know, they like to get up the Veil. It's really hard to break through these Pokemon if the Veil is up, so I'm like, okay. Lapras going to Dynamax here, and let's see what my opponent went for. I think ended up Rock Tomb. Yeah, it was the Rock Tomb. Yeah, Rock Tomb came out. I wasn't exactly anticipating that, and I thought like Dusclops could live the +2 Gmax Resonance after the Pain Splits. I'm like, okay, it's not too bad of a situation. So I'm able to get a Pain Split off into the Lapras, heal back to a decent amount, and we do see the Max Lightning actually come out. So my opponent actually didn't have Perish Song, it looked like, because you usually forego Perish Song for Thunderbolt. So that's actually really good information to know. I don't have to worry about Perish Song late game situations, and that's pretty good because my Ferrothorn was an amazing switch right there. My opponent also didn't get Veil Up. I think I made a mistake this turn because I remember looking back at this game like, yeah, I misplayed this turn heavily. I think I go into my my Lodic, and I think I go for the Dynamax and go for Overgrow because I thought I was definitely going to see the Incin coming in, and I thought maybe Max Guard comes out from the Lapras, which is why I decide to go for the attack here, as Incineroar does come out. But the problem is my opponent's Dusclops is actually slower than my own Dusclops because they're probably min speed, and I actually do have a bit of speed IVs, so I'm like, oh, this was a bad play. This wasn't exactly the best play. It wasn't like a terrible play, but the more optimal play here, looking back at it, it is to go for the Haze here. Because one, I got rid of the stat drops from Intimidate. It negated the weakness policy boost that the Lapras got. Like, Haze was just such a safe play there, and now that I'm looking back at this, I'm like, why did I switch out? Like, I guess I wanted pressure against Incin, which is what I was worried about, because like if the Lapras max guarded, I was a bit worried. But then again, I could just switch to Arcanine the following turn. So yeah, this was a pretty poor play from me now that I really look back at it. I should have definitely clicked Haze here, but instead I go for the Overgrow right here into the Lapras. Don't do much damage. I'm not sure if I would have knocked out with the Haze, but I feel like I probably would have came super close regardless. We are going to see the Resonance come out into the Milotics. Oh, no, it was in a Ferrothorn. Okay. Which doesn't do much damage at all, even with the +2, because I have an Assault Vest, I'm Dynamaxed, and Lapras is pretty weak in general. Veil is set up though, which is kind of annoying here. And I'm like, it's super close to whether another one KOs because of that Aurora Veil that's set up, so that means the damage is reduced, and I'm like, I don't think it does. So my play here is to go Arcanine here on what should be probably Max Lightning. I probably survived one, and I'm gonna go for the Overgrow. I think I go for Overgrow. I was thinking of Steel Spiking the Lapras just in case, so I could guarantee lift Flare Blitz from the Incineroar, but I'm like, if I'm switching him before Intimidate, I feel like I would survive anyway, as long as my opponent doesn't double up the Ferrothorn slot, which would be fine too, I think. That would put me in an okay spot regardless. It probably put me in a better spot actually, but yeah, I do send in the Arcanine here. There is the Overgrow coming out into the Lapras, which under Aurora Veil and with the Intimidate, even in grassy terrain, yeah, barely comes close to knocking out. And the Max Lightning does come out into the Arcanine slot. I was like pretty confident I lived this, and I do. It took a bit more damage than I actually expected though. Lightning Terrain or Electric Terrain is going to come out on the battlefield, and there's a Flare that comes out in the Ferrothorn, but doesn't knock out because I did have that Intimidate drop from my Arcanine into the Incineroar, and this Incineroar taking a bunch of HP right here. Dimensions return to normal, so no more Trick Room. And my opponent's team is pretty weakened. I think I did mess up a bit here in general with like how I played this, but I'm like, okay, it's probably not too bad. I'm going to close combat the Incineroar slot because I felt like it would KO at this range. And I think I go for Overgrow. I think I Overgrow again. I thought about Steel Spiking here, but I think I just wanted like grassy terrain wouldn't have been that bad for me, and I don't think it like helped my opponent as much. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for the close combat into Incineroar. I think it KOs at this range. I just don't see Incineroar switching out here, and Lapras is actually the one that switched out here, which surprised me, which goes back into Dusclops, which means my opponent wants to get Trick Room up once again. So Frisk, I'm gonna reveal my items, but it's not like I wasn't gonna reveal them anyway. You already knew I was Assault Vest based on the damage, and Life Orb is gonna be revealed here. And I actually don't KO the Incineroar through Veil, which surprised me actually at the time, because I really thought it would have. Flare Blitz is going to come out though. It targeted the Ferrothorn, so that meant my opponent is going to go down to the Iron Barb's damage from my Ferrothorn as well as the recoil. So I was like okay with that trade, because I'm pretty sure that my Lodic wins at this point, since the Lapras is just super low. Like I was pretty confident that as long as I kept my Lodic and Dusclops on the field, I was able to win. So like no matter what, as long as I kept those Pokemon healthy, which they were already healthy, I should be able to win, because like Lapras was super low. My Incineroar was going to be low at that point, would have gone down to Muddy Water, and I had the Dusclops still healthy regardless. So that's basically all I needed, was like chip into that Pokemon. And I'm like, okay, I could switch out Arcanine into the Dusclops here and Mudshot the Lapras, because I felt like my opponent would Trick Room here and Protect, and if they did go for the Trick Room Protect play, I am faster with my Dusclops than the Lapras, so I can get a Nightshade off guaranteed before the Lapras can attack. And if they don't, they just go down to the Mudshot. So I was like pretty okay with whatever happened here, because like getting Dusclops was pretty good. Like there wasn't really a way that my opponent could hard punish me for this play, as my opponent does go for that Trick Room, and now I'm in a pretty good spot, assuming that they don't have Ally Switch. But I really don't think they would carry Ally Switch on this team. We already revealed Drew moves on the Dusclops: Nightshade, Rock Tomb, and Trick Room. I'm assuming the last one's going to be a factor of either Haze or Pain Split. And right here I'm like, it's a pretty good position here just to go for a Nightshade into the Lapras slot. And I think I go for an Ice Beam double up into the Lapras. I think because I thought Togekiss was at 50% at this time, but even then, like Muddy Water didn't even help me at all in this position, like it didn't. So I'd go for the we trade Nightshades here with our Dusclops, but I'm able to knock out the Lapras, which is huge. And I go for the Ice Beam into the Dusclops. No freeze. I wasn't even going for the freeze. I just need damage at this point. And like I'm pretty sure that I just win the game sealed up here. Aurora Veil comes out here, and Aurora Veil wears off, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty much game over, as the Togekiss comes in a bit healthier than I remembered it. But like now I go for Nightshade, and I think I recover up, because I know my opponent can't like beat down this situation. Togekiss has Protect, it can go for it, but it's like not a big deal because of the fact that it's still going to be caught by Nightshade the following turn. My Dusclops is healthy enough to get it, and yeah, my opponent actually forfeits there. So not exactly the most well played thing from me. I do realize what I could do better now right here, but I feel like I played well enough to win that game. So we did learn some information, which was the Incineroar is actually not holding one of the recovery berries. So it most likely was safety goggles when I was looking at it, which does help my matchup, because like safety goggles doesn't really affect anything on my team. And that means it's easier for Ferrothorn to win the game if it comes down to that situation, and my opponent doesn't bring Conkeldurr here. Here, I'm like, it's tricky because it's always a mind game of whether you go like a Dusclops, Togekiss once again, or Roserade mix-up. And I'm like, I don't really have a good mid-ground. Like, I have to usually call it with this team, and I thought I might as well just go with the safety option here. I think I just go the same thing again, because I could always adjust in Game 3. I think I have the tools and resources to deal with it. And if they do lead Roserade, I feel like I'm okay, because like game 3 they're most likely inclined to bring it again, so I could always adjust and bring the Dragon Pulse Saline mode if I really have to, and I think it's an option that I can definitely do. So yeah, I just lock in the same thing, I think, especially since I don't really see a better way that I break through my opponent's team. I'm actually surprised that my opponent wasn't bringing like Conkeldurr, because I think Conkeldurr might be better than Incineroar in the cases of this match. But yeah, we're gonna go into game 2, and this is the game where you see on the thumbnail, if you didn't already look at the thumbnail, this is where my opponents might have to learn some facts about this game. So Togekiss plus Roserade does lead here, as I do lead my Dusclops plus my Milotic, and I'm like, okay, this is game over. I was actually like, this is game over, because I'm assuming The Togekiss has Heat Wave, and I think a play that covers all options for my opponent because he already know that my Milotic doesn't have Protect. I revealed basically every move other than Muddy Water on my Milotic, and you have to assume I have a Water move at this point, is to go for Heat Wave Sleep Powder, and I have no play that covers that. So I'm like, great, I'm going to have to stay in and go for attacks here because I can't catch a Heat Wave. It's not good here. So I'm going to go for Ice Beam and a Togekiss to weaken it. Hope I dodge a Sleep Powder or hope my opponent plays passive here. But my opponent actually just goes for the Dynamax with Togekiss right away, which I was actually surprised about. I didn't expect my opponent to immediately Dynamax to Togekiss because I thought Heat Wave just covered Fairforn coming in. And then you just Sleep Powder whatever with Roserade. And like you Sleep Powder my Milotic slide and just Heat Wave. Like there isn't really a punish that I have. But my opponent just goes for the Sleep Powder and the Dusclops does hit it. So I guess just wants to deny the room. And the Airstream comes out from the Togekiss. So yeah, this does a lot, especially since my opponent does get that critical hit with the Togekiss. I'm like, okay, this game's pretty much a wrap here. I can't really see how I'm gonna win this. I'm gonna have to get a first turn wake with Clops. So Ice Beam comes out, weakens the Togekiss, should put in range of Steel Spike even after -1, I feel like at this point. And like, I have to Trick Room up. I have to get Trick Room up. I have to go for I think I go for another Ice Beam once again. I think I go for the Roserade this time just to break a potential Focus Sash. And the Leaf Storm comes out and my opponent misses, which is where the thing in the thumbnail comes from. As the Airstream comes out in the Dusclops, like, my opponent was basically banking on sleep, and that's basically what you were doing with this lead. So we do see the Airstream once again, doesn't get a crit here, as I am going to be able to fire off an Ice Beam into the Roserade and break its potential Focus Sash. It's that super low, so even Nightshade would be able to finish it off at this range. And Dusclops stays asleep, unfortunately. So, like, yeah, I'm like, wow, it's game anyway. So I'm going to go for a cover here in case my opponent doesn't target down to Milotic for some reason. I'm going to go for the Trick Room once again because I have to get Trick Room up. Like, basically at this point in the game, I thought the game was over already. Like, I didn't even think the Leaf Storm was necessary in the Dusclops at that point. I thought he would just click, like, Sludge Bomb at this point into Milotic, or you maybe Sludge Bomb the Dusclops to get guaranteed damage, because I thought like -2 Roserade wasn't good for you. But my opponent goes for the Leaf Storm once again into the Dusclops, does a really solid amount. That actually did more than expected. And then my opponent goes for Starfall here into Milotic, and I'm like, why'd you go for Starfall? I had if I brought the same thing, I had Fairforn and Arcanine I could switch in, and you know, I resist those. Also, it really doesn't help you that the terrain is up, I think, unless I get a random freeze, but that doesn't, I don't get why Starfall came out. So I go for Trick Room here with the Dusclops, as I do wake up and I'm like, bless, Dusclops can win. Dusclops can win. So I'm going to go into Fairforn here because my opponent's Dynamax is over, and my Dynamax, I haven't used it yet, so I can go Fairforn here. I did lose my Milotic though, so I do have to be cautious because like Incineroar is going to be a big pain to handle. But as long as I can figure out a way to handle the Incineroar, I think I'm good. It especially helps that it doesn't have a berry. So right here, since Trick Room is up, I'm like, okay, and Dynamax is over, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for Pain Split in a Togekiss because you don't follow me here, I think. It just doesn't make sense. I think Incin is coming out here. And I think I expected actually the Incineroar to come in for the Togekiss slot and a Protect from the Roserade to stall out one turn of Trick Room. But actually my opponent does switch out the Roserade and Incineroar. So I'm like, okay, it's not like, it wasn't like a bad deal for me. I don't think this was like a bad trade at all. Because I'm still going to be able to get the boost with Dusclops, and as long as I'm boosting with Dusclops, getting these physical defense increases, the Incineroar is not really going to be able to touch my Dusclops at all. And then I'm going to be able to, like, Dusclops is going to be able to solo everything at this point, because I don't know what my opponent has in back, but if it's Conkeldurr, like, I'm going to be able to, one defense boost is all my Dusclops needs to start tanking that, and my opponent doesn't have much damage output. So we do get to Steel Spike off into the Incineroar, which does a small amount of damage. It's not a big amount of damage, obviously, but it's like an okay amount, as I am going to be able to increase my defenses right here on both Pokemon, as I do go for the Pain Split into Togekiss to, you know, just get back some HP, as I really thought the Incineroar was coming in, so I thought I could go for the Pain Split, catch the Incineroar. Heat Wave does come out finally from my opponent. I was surprised it took so long. The critical hit on Fairforn, which doesn't really change much because I'm going to be able to go for a Pain Split once again into the Incineroar slot. And a max Steel Spike in the Togekiss, because if you follow me, the Steel Spike is going to come out first, knock out the Togekiss slot. and I'm going to be able to get the Pain Split off guaranteed in Incineroar and gain the Steel Spike boost, which should allow me to live a Flare Blitz at this range from my opponent. So I'm like pretty okay with this. The Togekiss is going to switch out in a Lapras as my opponent preserves it, and I am going to be able to get Steel Spike off into the Lapras slot. This is still going to do a decent amount. It does a pretty good 30% right there into the Lapras, and I'm like, okay, this is looking pretty bad for my opponent because my opponent doesn't have recovery on the Incineroar. So Pain Split does come out into the Incineroar, and the Incineroar went for Flare Blitz and a Fair Front. It's taking a lot of recoil to put it in range of Nightshade, and yep, the Flare Blitz does come out because my opponent doesn't have like an answer to this Fair Front, besides I guess Heat Wave on the Togekiss. But yeah, as you can see, Incineroar takes a ton, and I'm like, okay, this is a pretty good situation. I could go for Nightshade into the Incineroar slot, and I think I go for Steel Spike into the Incineroar slot as well, if I remember right. Or do I go for the Lapras? I didn't want to activate Policy on Lapras. I know that's the thing, which is why I didn't target. Actually, I think I targeted the Lapras, yeah. Why did I target the Lapras again? I think I just wanted chip damage onto the Lapras. Get it a bit lower, and I felt like I was pretty confident that the Incineroar was in range of Nightshade anyway. We're gonna see a switch from my opponent. Roserade is gonna come out, and I'm like, okay, this is basically perfect right here. As Lapras protects, I'm like, I'm okay with that. It doesn't really change anything. This was the best turn for me because I got Steel Spike damage off into the Lapras. I don't remember if I expected the Roserade switch at the time. I think I thought about it because you kind of need Incineroar at this point, I felt like. But yeah, I am able to get my defense boost once again. Nightshade going to come out into the Roserade and pick up the knockout. I think I just thought that the Nightshade was guaranteed knocking out the Incineroar, which is why I went for that play, I think. I don't think I really considered the Roserade, but I think it was like in the back of my mind at that point. And now this game's like, okay. Incineroar comes back in once again. It's at 20%. I think Nightshade does KO, but like, I don't think I had a reason to target the Lapras here damage wise, so I think I double up the Incineroar this turn with a knockoff plus Nightshade, because it's the last turn of Trick Room. You can't fake out my Dusclops. Yeah, I think I just go for knockoff and Nightshade into the Incineroar slot because I just didn't see a reason to target Lapras. Lapras was basically in range of my Arcanine's Wild Charge or close combat anyway, so I thought damage on Lapras didn't matter here because like I'm going for Arcanine endgame with Dusclops at this rate. So I go for knockoff and a Fair for no fake out, and we do get to reveal it is that safety goggles on that Incineroar. So we do get the Nightshade off into the Incineroar slot, so we are able to knock out the Incineroar, as we do get the Hydro Pump off into the Dusclops. And yeah, it doesn't really do too much. Lapras is pretty weak in general, especially if it doesn't have the boost, and the terrain disappears again. Not sure why my opponent set up the terrain, but ends up working out for me. Togekiss is going to come out here, and I'm like, this end game I think is pretty much won at this point. I'm gonna go for, I think I go for, what did I go for? I think I Pain Split the Lapras slot and I Gyreball the Togekiss slot. The reason I make this play is because you have to double into something to pick up a knockout here, and if you don't target the Fair Front, I knock out your Togekiss. If not, I just put you in range. And yeah, my opponent actually went for like Air Slash crit and a Hydro Pump to I think they went for Hydro Pump and Pharaoh. Yeah, they did actually. I think they tried to catch the Arcanine to switch, but I felt like there was no reason to. There was no reason to basically risk my Arcanine right there, because Arcanine's going to win the game. So I thought there was no reason to risk that for me. Gyreball does come out into Togekiss and does pick up a knockout, and I'm going to be able to go for the... did I already attack? Oh yeah, I did go for the Pain Split, yeah. So I just wanted to get healthy enough, and now I'm like, this game's 100% sealed. I do have a Arcanine in the back that can outspeed this Lapras and pick up the win. So I think what should have been a loss on, what was it, turn 1 or turn 2? I think it was like after turn 1. That's how big Dynamax can be. And yeah, I'm going to be able to pick up the round 6 win against my opponent. And it was funny what he did to me. I was dying when I saw what he typed in chat. Like how he said the Dusclops should have been KO'd. I'm like, he said like 5% chance for a miss. And I'm like, Leaf Storm. He should fact check, because Leaf Storm is 90% accurate, not 95. So it was a 10% chance he had. 2, he was relying on sleep powders and crits that entire game. So, you know what? I was thinking about responding, but I'm like, this guy's a waste of time. I'm just taking my win right here, and that's exactly what I did. I think he definitely, like, I don't even think Leaf Storm was the correct play there. I thought he should just, or at least like the first Leaf Storm. The second Leaf Storm he kind of had to do, but he let me, like, he could have took the knockout on Klops instead of doubling on my Milotic. I don't get why he targeted my Milotic. He could have targeted down the other slot and been completely fine. He could have just targeted my Dusclops because Dusclops was a threat. My Milotic wasn't, but my opponent decided to A, knock out the Milotic, and B, leave Dusclops alone. Decided to risk all the sleep powders. Like, got lucky. He was basically relying on those sleep turns too. So I'm like, no sympathy, no sympathy. But we're gonna be able to take the win right there. I'll leave a screenshot of the thing if it's not already on screen of what he typed. But yeah, that's how we handled it today. So I hope everyone enjoyed today's analysis of the Champions Cup. That was my round 6. I actually thought like I was gonna get one of like I don't know, one of those salty messages in like an earlier round. But I'm actually surprised I got it like this late in the round. But I'm like, okay, just another day in the office. But guys should learn some facts. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you thought about this video, and you know, that kind of stuff. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below. You can check out my other social media. You can check out my main series, VGC 2020 Back to Battles. All that good stuff will be listed down below. And next time we will have round 7 of the Champions Cup. Currently 6-0 in this tournament. You can also check me out on my social medias. The size is my channel. You can check me out on Twitch where I do a live stream, twitch.tv/JamesBaek, down below in the description, as well as you can check out my community Discord as well. Otherwise, yeah. And yeah, again, I have to go 8-1 in order to make the final elimination bracket. So yeah, otherwise that's gonna be it. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great day, people. Until we battle again, I'll catch y'all later.